Actually, it's the lead play in our offense.
Come a tackle, take the defensive end. If he's over him, if he's not, you drive down the first man who is inside. Pull back and tell him to take the first man outside the offensive tackle.
No one shows. Go right by them and field inside.
If the YN has the linebacker taken out, he cuts inside. If the YN has the linebacker in, he comes all the way around. If you look at this play, what we're trying to get is a seal here and a seal here, and try to run this play in the alley.
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. You can find me on Twitter at Packers_access. If you want to email the show, you can send a message to PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. You can text the show at 865-658-5824. I want to thank everybody for hopping in the chat. I know this was very, very short notice. We usually try to go live around 6 or 7 Central Time, but I'm going to jump on a podcast with Jake Shavink, the host of our podcast here on the Packernet Podcast Network called It's Always Draft Season. So we're going to be touching base with him and just hanging out with him here in a little bit. So I thought we'd go live a little bit earlier, and obviously the guys couldn't get on here with us, but that's totally cool. I know the chat's going to be lit up, which it already is. So I'm going to kind of comb through the chat real quick. We got a few topics I want to hit on, and then we'll get you guys out of here. So first things first, we got Bucky Cheesehead in the house. We got Omer in the house. Let's see, Boz is in here. Got a full house, good stuff. United Bates, what's up, man? Chris in the house. And let's just kind of see what everybody's talking about here in the chat real quick before we get into our topics. This is pretty cool. Omar mentioned all 53 practice, even Musgrave. Amazing. Yeah, I love the fact that that Musgrave's just kind of sucking it up, right? And Coach Matt LaFleur kind of mentioned it. You guys, I'm sure, have seen on Twitter where people are mentioning how he was like pretty much blown away that he went from being in a walking boot 2 days ago to practicing today, even if it was in a limited fashion, right? Pretty cool stuff. And that's what you want to see from your young players. That's the type of stuff you want to see from up and coming leaders on your team, right? And in no way, shape, or form am I saying that Luke Musgrave is a leader now, but that's the type of stuff that earns the respect of your peers. We're talking about how banged up this team is, and no one's going to sit here and say that these players don't want to play, right? None of us are saying that. None of us are saying they're soft or anything like that. But I do know this. All it takes is one or two players to kind of go out there and say, you know what, hell or high water, I'm going to be on the field. I'm going to be there for my teammates. The way that Reggie played hurt, the way that Brett played hurt, the way that Aaron played hurt, right? That's something that gets looked over a lot, is just how much Aaron Rodgers played hurt. Aaron Jones wanting to get back out there, those type of things. Somebody's got to set the tone, right? And I think they're going to look up and see Luke Musgrave over there doing everything he can to get on the field. And I don't know, man, I'm trying not to be negative, but some of the veterans on the team, they've really rubbed me the wrong way. Jair said something about, he probably shouldn't have played last week, or maybe it was the week before. I can't remember. Maybe it was the Raiders game, he said. And then he said, maybe he needs to go out this week and show Jordan Addison what the NFL is all about. And it's like he doesn't even realize how much his play has dropped off this year, even when he was on the field, right? Now, it could be from the injury, right? But just that type of attitude of maybe I need to get out there and show them what the NFL is all about. It's like, how about you get out there and play for your teammates, right? How about you get out there and play for the G? How about you get out there and play for the fans? For all the players that came before you in Green Bay. I don't know, man. It's rubbing me the wrong way. And I know that's something we've talked about on this pod quite a bit here lately. So, let's see. Almer in the chat says it's going to get worse before it gets better unless they grow some O-linemen this week. Yeah, if the O-line doesn't get better, especially in the run blocking aspect, it's going to stay ugly, right? That's something they've got to get cleaned up right now, no doubt about it. Let's see. Omar said, Matt said he doesn't believe Aaron Jones is 100% yet, but Ryan Wood said Jones told him he's feeling the best he has all season. So obviously the head coach sending a little smoke signal there, right? Trying to keep everything under wrap a little bit. But it's going to be interesting to see just exactly how much of a workload he gets. And guys, this is the Vikings, right? This is a division rival. I don't think anybody in that locker room or the coaching staff is trying to write this up as a season where they can't come back, right? And they can't possibly make the playoffs. And again, is it a long shot? Absolutely, it's a long shot, right? It's going to take a lot to make that happen. But with that being said, hey, let's make a run at it, right? Let's do it. Let's go after it. So, I'm excited. I'm really excited about seeing them play the Vikings because I think it's going to be a pretty good measuring stick for them. I really do. I think it's going to be something where you're going to, after they come off that win against the 49ers, you're going to have an opportunity to go out there and show that, look, hey, if the Vikings can beat the Niners and we can go out and beat the Vikings and just kind of get a win under our belt. It feels like it's been forever since we've got a win. I think it's something that could create some serious momentum, especially the fact, like we pointed out last night, I think it was either Tim or Emilio on the show here, pointed out that, the fact that we've lost the AFC teams, right? Like you're still in a pretty good spot conference-wise in order to try to make the playoffs and having that NFC conference record up and then trying to get your divisional record straightened out. You never know, man. The Lions could completely collapse. You've seen how they played against Baltimore last week, right? The Vikings are starting to create a little bit of momentum. So if you're able to knock them off at Lambeau Field, all of a sudden you're right back in the hunt, right? It's just so early in the season. This one right here cracks me up. Omar in the chat says, not to worry, Stinovich has it all covered with Myers, who he says is playing the best of his career. Pretty much laughing out loud there. Yeah, that was a tough comment for me. And I know people have written articles and tried to go in and say, hey, look, no, it's not as bad as people think. Look, he's a good pass blocker. There's no doubt about it. Now, I watch every snap of the season, and when I see him pass block, you also got to take into consideration how much help he's got, right? And how much chipping goes on. So what I mean by that is, if they're coming out in a 4-tech, right, and the defensive line is lined up over the guards, and all the center has to do is just kind of chip. He's just kind of bounce over and help, knock somebody off their spot a little bit. Well, guess what? He's probably going to get a +2 grade there, right? He's probably going to get as good a grade as you can get in the pass blocking scheme. That, along with the zone blocking aspect of our play action, makes pass blocking a lot easier than some of just the normal pass sets, right? Now, when you look at his run blocking, it's absolutely horrific. And I refuse to, just let that fall to the wayside. Like, oh, well, he's a good pass blocker, but he can't run. No, you got to be good at all facets of the game, man. You've got to be able to. You wonder why we can't run the ball. It's because of those run blocking grades, and you see it all over the tape, right? And I think some of that's on Matt LaFleur being a little too complex in the blocking scheme and trying to do too many things, trying to do some pin and pull, trying to do a little power, running your inside zone, outside zone, mixing in duo. Maybe it's just too much for everybody to handle, right? So this last game, I think, was a step in the right direction in that regard. I know it's tough losing to a bad team like Denver, but there are no moral victories. But when you can come away from a game and go, okay, well, we did that a little bit better. We did that a little bit better. It's blocks that you can build off of, right? So let's see what else we got in here before we get to some of the content. Just want to make sure I'm not overlooking anyone. What's up, Zane? Appreciate you dropping through, buddy. Yeah. All right, cool. This right here hits it for me. Bucky Cheesehead says, I'm just happy they're back at Lambeau. Seems like forever. Amen, brother. Amen, dude. So excited to see Lambeau Field this Sunday. It looks like it's going to be gloomy, a little bit cloudy, right? A little bit chilly, probably a high around 40, little Lambeau weather. Let's see if we can beat Kirk Cousins up a little bit. So, all right, let's do this. Let's talk about the injury report. It was released today. And let's go ahead and hit on it real quick and just kind of see what might have changed. Jair Alexander was limited today. He's listed as questionable. I always like to mention this because the questionable tag was supposed to be 50-50, right? There's a 50% shot he'll play, 50% shot he won't play. So when you see questionable, it's like, okay, it's completely up in the air, right? When someone's probable, really good chance they're going to play. When they're doubtful, then it's going to take darn near a miracle to get them on the field, right? So that's how Jair sits right now, questionable. Zane Anderson, full participation, he's good to go. Devondre Campbell, limited participation, questionable. I would be surprised if we see Devondre Campbell out there. That's just me. I hope he's on the field, but to me, it just still seems like it's a little early for that ankle. We'll have to wait and see come game time. Elton Jenkins, limited participation, no game status, so he should be good to go. Aaron Jones, limited participation. I know we'll see a snap count or a pitch count, if you will, with him. Hopefully it gets increased a little bit. I think last week we had 8 carries, 11 total touches. Maybe we can get that up to, 12 to 15 carries. That would be absolutely phenomenal because Aaron Jones showed you he's still got it, right? He's definitely still got it. Now, here's the big one. It's really cool. Luke Musgrave with the ankle. Did not participate Wednesday, did not participate Thursday, limited on Friday, listed as questionable. So there's a good chance he won't go, but just the fact that he got out there that quick and, like I say, trying to set the tone a little bit when it comes to, those injuries and this whole locker room from a cultural aspect. Josh Myers did not participate Wednesday. He was limited Thursday, full participation today, listed as questionable. I think Josh Myers will probably go. Of course, you've seen him come back into the game the other day. Yash limited today. No game status designation there, so he should be good to go. You have Preston Smith, full participation, which, like Paul Brettel said right here on this program, that it was an illness he was dealing with. Christian Watson, full participation. Devonte Wyatt, full participation. So they should be good to go in that regard. So, all right, let's do this. Let's go back to the chat real quick. Let's see. Chris N. All right, buddy, I will, man. Listen, I'll just read the comment here. Chris N. says, keep the heat on Goot and Matt LaFleur, my man. It's not about putting heat on people. It's about watching the tape and just really, describing what you see on tape. That's all you can do, right? And I understand there's some people that don't like us tape heads, right? They like to kind of look at the game a little bit different and not as serious. And I hear people joke about, these YouTube channels that they're actually breaking down the tape. I've learned everything I've learned about football from breaking down the tape. Period. Case closed. And it's going to continue to evolve in that aspect. I love watching Kurt Warner's breakdowns. I love watching Kurt Benkurt's breakdowns. JT O'Sullivan's. Mike Wall is one of the best at breaking it down and keeping it simple. Those are the guys that I try to pick up on how they watch tape, that and just the stuff from reading over the years and trying to understand the game of football, especially at the professional level. But yeah, man, it's not about trying to put heat on anyone. Although, I mean, hey, I understand what you're saying. And if that's a byproduct, that's a byproduct. I'm not saying I'm right and anyone else is wrong. That's just what I'm seeing. And if you see it, you got to say it, right? So let's see here. Casey Oldham in the chat says, how about we game plan from the beginning like we were down 2 scores, down 10-14, change it up. Hey, let's see if we can get the guy who's working the scoreboard in Lambeau, just go ahead and put the third quarter up there for us, right? Maybe that'll trigger something in this offense to get out there and get a little bit quicker start. Omar said this team should have been 5-1 at this point. It's tough, man. Now, they could have been 1-5 too. We've all talked about that, right? But yeah. But here's the other thing too that we got to put into perspective. We knew it was going to be a growing year. We knew it was going to be, a developmental year, right? I mean, Goody made that decision when he put this roster out there and put them on the field. And we all had high hopes, right? Coming into the season, I was saying 6 to 10 wins. That's what I seen. You come out and you win those 2 early games and you immediately think, okay, this might be a 10-win team. I've said this over and over. Then all of a sudden you start losing some of these close games, bang, bang, bang. Now we're looking like, okay, we're probably back in that 6-win range. Now, those games with the youngest roster in the National Football League and a quarterback who's struggling with accuracy, although the rest of his numbers aren't that bad, really. Even his rushing statistics, got a couple rushing touchdowns. I think he's in the top 5 or top 10 in passing touchdowns, he being Jordan Love. So when you look at that, a first-year starter, you're missing your all-pro left tackle, right? You've missed your best player on offense pretty much the entire season outside of Chicago. You've just had him in a little bit of a limited fashion there last week in Aaron Jones. Elton Jenkins is banged up. He's playing extremely, he's underperforming based off of what he's shown us in the past. Christian Watson's underperforming right now. You've got rookie Jaden Reed doing what he can. You've got another rookie in Luke Musgrave, going out there and playing. When you look at it like that, it's like, hey, the fact that we're in these games, right, and in a position that we could possibly win them, that's pretty remarkable. This last game, if it hadn't been Denver, I'd be sitting here going, hey, look, man, we missed the field goal. Rookie kicker missed the field goal. If he doesn't miss that field goal, we win that ball game, right? But the hard part is accepting the fact that it was Denver, right? And you got to be real in that regard for sure, though. So let's see here. Oh, it looks like Emilio might be freed up, so let's see if we can get him the link real quick. Emilio, look for it on Twitter, my man. I'll shoot it over there right now. And if you want to hop on, you do so, man. We'd love to have you on here. So, all right, cool. You should have it, man. I'll keep a lookout for you here. Yeah, Chris, appreciate that, man. He says we appreciate all the work you guys put in, man. It's a blast, dude. I never thought having a pod, would be this enjoyable. And I've heard a lot of people complain because it's a down year, right? And it's like, man, that's a tough year to kind of go, I don't want to say full time, but to do a daily podcast, a daily YouTube show. I've enjoyed it because when I watch football, even if it's a down year, the only way it wouldn't be enjoyable for me if I was just watching it, cutting it off when we're losing and not really gaining anything from it. But you got to understand that every result in a game of football, especially in the National Football League, there's a reason it's happening, right? So the goal shouldn't be, well, let's just root for them. Let's just watch it whenever, they're doing well. The goal should be, hey, let's try to understand what's going on the field and why it's happening, right? That should be the overall goal, whether the team's winning or losing. Now, I think it's going to be really, really sweet when this team does finally put it together, right? And puts herself in a position where they can actually compete. But we'll bring in Emilio now from Tennessee. Emilio, what's going on, buddy? I've got no sound for you, man. Let's see what we got here. I'll go to this chat real quick. You just speak up when you get it fixed there, man. Let's see. United Bates says, need points on the board in the first half and control that clock. Tired of 3 and outs, and so is our defense. Yeah, it's tough, man. And listen, I've defended the defense quite a bit. I'm not saying that the defense is perfect. I'm not saying the defense is, like I pointed out, I think they're right there around that 15 spot. I really do. I think they've improved a little bit from last year, especially seeing that they've got so many starters out. But the offense that's the tough part, man. These 3 and outs, especially when it's a time at the opening of the game that the play should be scripted and you've got that should be your best shot at attacking a defense, right? And if it doesn't work, then you adjust as quick as possible and come up with that counter punch, right? That should be the goal. But,
right.
So, Emilio, I think we got you now, man. How you doing, pal?
I'm good, bud. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing good, man. Appreciate you jumping on here short notice, dude. Like I was telling the guys, Jake going to have me on a pod here in a little bit. So
that'll be a good one. That'll be a listen to for sure. Everyone in the chat here should already be over there waiting for the next one.
Yeah, it's anytime you hang out with Jake, I love his passion for college football, and we're going to kind of just take a glimpse ahead at the draft a little bit. And hey, where are the swings and misses? If you've got problems with this front office and the decisions they've made, whether it's the draft, free agency, or whatever, make sure you hop over to Jake Shavink's channel tonight. And if you can't, if you don't know where it's at, just look on Twitter, search for Jake Shavink, and you should be able to find him. And it's called the It's Always Draft Season podcast. But I think this video is a little bit different series he's doing with an awesome YouTube channel.
Because I was listening to that earlier today. I didn't get through all of it. I finished up blowing the leaves. I got home, so I figured he'll be finished up next time I pop in the earbuds. But yeah, I love his content, man. Every time he gets on the mic, he starts cooking. I tell you, he just starts lighting this up because there's so much there. There's no way that any of us can keep up with it, and I don't know how he does it, but he really does, man.
Yeah, you can tell he's passionate about it, and that's me. Yeah. Like, I'm not getting on that show tonight to spill my knowledge on college football. That's not the goal. Hopefully, I can give a little bit of an opinion on where I think this roster is and where the holes are.
Right.
And we can kind of bounce some stuff off of each other. But yeah, man, it's amazing. He knows everyone by name, their tendencies. He's a phenomenal host for sure. We got Josh Martin with the super chat. Thank you so much, Josh. We appreciate you supporting the stream. He said, I'm at the point of this season where if we win, I'm happy. If we lose, I'm happy because we're one step closer to drafting Marvin Harrison Jr. Boy, hey, man, what do they call him? Maserati? Is that his nickname?
Is that what they call him?
I think, well, that's what Gus Johnson called him on the telecast the other day. I'm assuming he didn't just make that up on the
fly. Right.
But yeah, Marvin Harrison Jr., man, he's a chip off the old block. He's just one of those receivers that you could see him dominating on Sundays. Now, he's got to go out there and do it, right? It's a totally different ball game, but
I mean, his dad did it. He absolutely dominated, man. Yeah. And with a stellar quarterback. So,
yeah,
it's all about the combo.
It really is, man. And creating that chemistry, right? That's what's so important. I wouldn't be opposed to them if they're in, if we do finish with a top 10 pick or a top 5 pick, I wouldn't be opposed to them taking the best receiver in the draft. But here's the question. Do they have that high of a grade on Marvin Harrison Jr., right?
Right.
I mean, we've seen it over and over and over. Like, well, Quentin Johnson this year, there were so many people that fell in love with him. I wasn't very big on him because to me, he was one of those straight line speed, deep threat type guys. I didn't see a whole lot of depth to his game. Now, I'm not a scout, and I don't pretend to be one on TV, right? The thing that I noticed was I felt like Jordan Addison was a more complete receiver, but also it was, it's not an elite position, right? Wide receiver. Now, we're hurting at wide receiver, don't get me wrong. Now, if they've got a top grade on Marvin Harrison Jr., they'll take him if he's available. There's no doubt about it. But it's just man, it's still pretty wild that it's been that long since we've taken a wide receiver in the first round, Emilio.
Right. And I mean, it would be if he's available too. I mean, that's the other thing.
Right.
How far down are we going to go? Where are we going to land? Like Jake was talking on his pod, I think he said for his estimate, we'd be at about 9th. If we keep this up, he kind of just estimated the rest of the year. So with that, do you throw in a couple picks and try to climb up to get him on at 3 or something like that? Would we want to do that? Would we want to throw that capital at him? It's once you commit to something like that, it's a commitment. Whereas I feel like if if Christian Watson doesn't work out, everybody could fall back on, hey, it was the second round pick. But I mean, also, do we like our wide receivers right now? I'm kind of happy with them. I think that as they grow, I think Wicks will get there. I think Dobbs I love how he carries himself, and it's we spent a lot there recently, so I don't know if we're gonna go back to the pot again.
Yeah, definitely. Josh Martin, thank you so much for the super chat, buddy. We appreciate it. Omar in the chat says this defense is averaging about 20 points a game. In the A-Rod, Favre era, those translated into automatic wins. Yeah, great point. Great point. But this is a much younger offense, right? And we all got to take that into consideration. Again, I don't think the defense is doing great, but I think it is funny how some people will cherry pick stats to make it sound like it's worse than it is, right? Mm-hmm. And that's why I like points per play and yards per play, is because that's when it breaks it down to how efficient is your defense being. We had someone in the chat the other night. They said, yeah, but the points per play, you're kind of skewing that, with that specific statistic. But okay, let me ask you this: what about when Jordan Love turned the ball over inside their own 20 there a couple times this year, right? Wouldn't you think that would hurt the points per play, right? Mm-hmm. In that case, it's going to inflate them, right? Because even if you go 3 and out and they get 3 points, you see how high that points per play goes up, right?
Right.
See, everything has to come into perspective, right? And I'm not sitting here telling anyone what stat they should choose or what they should lean on the most. That's just the one that I like because I've been somewhat embedded into the gambling community. Mm-hmm. And that's something that's really, really important in the gambling community because to them, that's a true gauge of, okay, here's how many plays it's taking for them to gain X amount of yards or X amount of points, right? That's truly how successful they've been.
And Matt was saying to Omar's point, if we get 20 points or if our defense holds them to under 20, that's an offense. We should win that game. Yeah. And that's Matt's motto. And I love that. We just haven't been able to put the points up because we don't start until the third quarter. So like I think I heard a little bit earlier, let's get the third quarter moved to the first quarter and let's start rolling this ball down the hill.
Yeah, that's what cracks me up because like a stat that someone threw out earlier, they were, I think he said 31st in scoring percentage. And I went, what the hell scoring percentage? What is that? And it's, I see what they did. It's not points per game. It's not points per play. It's how often they actually score, meaning field goals too. Those times when they get inside the 20, your defense stands tall and holds them to a field goal as if that's a negative. And it's like anytime you get into that stuff where you're trying to bend stats and cherry pick to prove a point. Let's see. Casey over here said, I heard Ryan mention the defense DVOA, if that's what it's called, is pretty atrocious. I guess because of how weak our schedule has been. Yeah, I heard that too. And it's funny too. You need context, right? Did you hear how Ryan said it? I know I heard it. It was literally, he said, yeah, for those of you, he said somebody asked him, what's the DVOA? What's the DVOA? And he's like, okay, for those of you who want blood on the defense, we found the stat that's going to make it out basically. And I'm kind of paraphrasing, but let's make it look as bad as possible here.
Right.
The problem I have with DVOA, and I'm not saying it's a useless metric at all. It's something that's really, really popular. But they say it's supposed to be the adjusted ranking or rating of your defense based on the opponent they play, right? Well, let me ask you this. Do they adjust that based off of the opponents and who they played? You understand what I'm saying? It's like, how deep does it actually go?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, that's why it's important to take all this information and throw it into one pot. That's why I pointed out that on points per play, or it was yards per play, they're 11th, right? You don't hear me saying, hey, this is a borderline top 10 defense. Mm-hmm. No, because DVOA is pretty bad, right? Points per play is a little bit lower than the 11. So it's like, I put them somewhere in the 15 mark, 15 to 17. So, but I did hear that too. And again, if you guys go listen to it, it was pretty comical how he said it, because he was like, I'm focused on offense right now because it's obvious offense is the big problem, right? That's where we're struggling the most. And, like Matt LaFleur mentioned, you score 20. If a defense holds another team to under 20 points, you should win that ball game. If you don't, your offense is not doing their job, right? Mm-hmm. And he's like, so if you want blood on the defense, there you go. You've got to. Right.
Isn't our red zone offense like pretty decent this year? Aren't we converting at like 70% or something? I don't know if that number's right, but
I don't know the exact number, but it's definitely up from last year. At least it was. I'm sure it still is because we scored in the red zone.
We just can't get there.
Right. Exactly. That's it. And it's almost a little too late, which again, we were in every game up to this point. Right. Mm-hmm. So, it is what it is. Let's see.
Because Vikings won how many one-score games last year, and we've lost how many this year. So it's kind of just how it falls. It's every little bit. Yeah.
Omer in the chat said, I hate Barry, but the issues are Matt and his inept offense. I love how he's like, listen, I ain't letting Barry off the hook.
Yeah, right.
Me personally, again, I'm not a huge Joe Barry fan. The only reason that I get stamped with the Barry apologist is because I watch the tape and go, missed tackle, blown coverage, missed tackle. I'm not going to get on there and go, this is Joe Barry's fault, right? I'm just not going to do it. Now,
I don't know what they're doing on one play. Everyone's just standing around, holding their hands up, praying.
Other than McDuffie going,
yeah, right.
I ain't worried about it, guys. I'm covernistic. But yeah, so it's one of those things that I think Joe Barry's probably on his way out, and I think it's really loud. The question is, what are you going to bring in now, right? Mm-hmm. You've spent all this time teaching this defense. Do you bring someone else in who runs the Fangio style? Or are you saying, no, this scheme is flawed? Now, if the argument, Emilio, if it is, hey, look, we like this scheme, that's what I'm seeing on tape is there's nothing wrong with the scheme. There's nothing wrong with the play calling. There isn't. But if the argument is these players aren't performing up to their maximum level, let's bring in a DC that can get the most out of them because Joe Barry can't, then, hey, look, I can't argue with that. I can respect that, Right. I want the best defense on the field. I want a top 5 defense, mm-hmm. Year in and year out. So if that does mean getting rid of Barry, heck yeah. But if you watch the tape, you can't come away going, I don't come away going, yeah, Joe Barry's the problem. I'm going, these players are underperforming.
Right. But I mean, if you do that and we bring in another coach, what happens if it's like the Vikings and say, hey, we're switching from a 3-4 back to a 4-3. Now we got to get 400-pound linemen in the middle, and we got to switch up our edges because they're going to be staying down a lot more. There's a lot that goes into it. So a big choice would have to be made, where we're going after this. Yeah, definitely. All right, Boz, thank you so much for the donation, dude. You're awesome, man. I tell you, he's just all the time, man. We really, really appreciate you supporting the stream, dude. We can't tell you enough. It means the world to us. Let's see here. Casey Oldham says, in the world of coaching, quote, you're either coaching it or allowing it to happen, or so I've always told. Ha. Yeah, that is the big saying, right? And it's that Mike Wall actually says that all the time. You're either coaching it or you're allowing it to happen, right? There's no excuses. You've heard me say players win them and coaches lose them, right? Mm-hmm. That's a mindset that great coaches have. That's a quote by Bill Belichick, meaning, hey, look, when things are going right, it's because we put the players they have the talent and they were in position to do what they do best. When we lose, it's because we didn't put them in a position to do what they do best. The problem is there's not many people on this team not named Quay Walker that's good at tackling,
right? Like,
Yeah.
That's the big issue we've got.
Eyes on the thighs. We need a little bit more of it.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, let's do this. Let's kind of switch gears. And again, Boz, thank you so much, man. We really appreciate you. I've got an audio clip I want to play for you here. This was Mark Chmura on Jen, Gabe, and Chewy. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but they've got a morning show on I think it's on ESPN Radio, and they have Jason Wilde on as a weekly guest every week. And they do a good job, man. I know there's a lot of people that don't like Wilde. I don't agree with everything Wilde says. I don't, but I appreciate the fact that he's constantly on the grind covering the Packers, right? And he's been with the Packers, I think, since 1996. How about that? The first year he came on reporting for the Packers, they win a Super Bowl, right? So
good timing.
Yeah, absolutely. What we're going to do, I'm going to mute your mic and mute mine as well, Emilio, just to make sure that we can hear this okay. And let's see if we can catch this audio real quick as I pull it up here. And so again, this is basically Jen, Gabe, and Chewy, and they've got Jason Wilde on here, and they're talking about this offense because basically Chewy went back and watched some of the tape. But let's see what they had to say here when it comes to the offense here in 2023 for the Green Bay Packers.
The players are doing the wrong thing. Whether it's
and
a
it's
lazy,
not always the same player, right?
Yeah, no, this one I went Josh Myers.
That's
right?
part of the problem.
Josh Myers there was an inside run, and the guy over the guard kind of shaded to his inside disappears, right? And it was clearly Josh Myers helping out that guy with the guard and then getting up onto the Mike linebacker. Well, the guy shaded on the guard disappears, and Josh Myers is still chasing him, even though he disappears and is late to getting to the linebacker. And I'm like, what the hell is he doing? Is he being not coached on how to do that, or is he just doing it on his own? And it's the same with route running. It's like these guys are running bananas instead of putting their foot in the ground and coming back to the ball. To me, I revert to the coaches, because if that continues to happen, then that's the coach, man. Sit in the damn meeting rooms for 2 hours, even if the CBA doesn't allow you to. But something's lost in transition here. It's like, this is 101. This is coaching 101.
Yeah, I think we looked at 6 plays, and there was somebody who did something wrong on all 6. And I don't think there was a repeat offender.
Well, and sometimes, Jason, and I know that you know this as well, having watched the game, but sometimes they get away with it too. Like I was telling the guys, I watched the quarterback school, the JT O'Sullivan breakdown of all of Jordan Love's passes, and shockingly, many of them were third and 1, third and medium, third and long, like a lot of the plays. But there was one play where I think it's DeGuara who goes out to chip, and he just misses very badly. Now they moved the chains on that one, but that could have been another one where you can't miss your block like that and expect your guy to still be able to always make up for it.
One other example, Jason, the screen they had the screen in for me because I had blazing speed. We just never ran it.
No doubt.
But the front that they were in with the screen to Luke Musgrave, you cannot run it. You have to check out of it. You can't run it into a 25 front. In 61 plays, I was telling these guys, just 61 plays sounds like a lot, but it is not.
And you said that was a waste.
And that's a wasted play. Now, either Jordan Love didn't know this or wasn't taught that you cannot run that play into that, or stuff like that blows my mind.
All right. So again, that was Mark Chmura on Jen, Gabe, and Chewy. And again, that came from, if you guys just search Jason Wilde, he's got several just 10, 15-minute spots he does every week. Really good stuff there. So, yeah, you heard that okay, right, Emilio?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So, that was the tight end screen that you and I broke down, remember? And we looked up and said, this had no chance. There was no chance. Mm-hmm. And on top of the hat count being screwed up, DeGuara's running 20 yards down the field, acting like he's looking for somebody to block. And I'm like, if that's how it was drawn up, man, that's a horrible play design. And Chewy, I mean, he sounded like he was ready to fight somebody. But what did you think about what he had to say there, man?
And like we were saying, that it's everybody. Everyone's making a mistake. It's not just one. Josh Myers can't get to the second level. DeGuara misses a block. Musgrave misses a catch. The screen doesn't work. AJ Dillon trips or something. It can literally be anything. But it's, the team, they just need to figure it out, really. It's just got to come. It comes down to execution by inches and completing plays, finishing your block, playing through the whistle. All the little mental things, when like you were running sprints back in the day and you were doing the pyramid sprints where you start on the goal line, you sprint to the 5 back, 10 back, 15 back, and the one dude down the line, you look down the line, it's on 2, you look down the line and the dude jumps and you got to start, you're already going to the 50, start all the way back at 0 again and run them sprints. And that's where it's like, dude, I cannot believe you just made us run another 500 yards because you can't sit in your stands. Those are the mistakes they're missing on.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the problems I think is the lack of leadership, the lack of veteran presence. Everybody last year got so mad at Aaron Rodgers because he was frustrated with players on the field. Him yelling at Josh Myers, right? People, oh, that ain't right. That ain't a good teammate. It's like, maybe I am old school. I don't know. The reason it didn't bother me is because even at the lowest level of athletics, even in just high school baseball, if somebody was letting the team down, you didn't call them out to embarrass them, but it was like, hey, listen, are we serious about this or not?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is this something that we're going to try to? Are we going to try to win district? Are we going to try to make it to region? Or are we just out here playing around? Like, we would hold each other accountable. Aaron Rodgers does that. He's a horrible teammate. Tom Brady did it for years, shouting on the sideline, throwing tablets, cussing people out. Right. Oh, he's a competitor. Aaron did it. It's like, look at what a jerk. What a jerk he is. Well, now you don't have anybody doing that. I remember people going into this season, Emilio, they were saying, I'm just so excited to have a quarterback who's not going to try to embarrass his teammates on the field. Okay, well, we got it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what's happening, right? And I'm not pinning it on Jordan. I'm just simply saying someone like that, they're not out there to just be a jerk. They're out there to try to get the best out of each other. Watch the Michael Jordan documentary. Watch it. Watch the Jordan documentary, the 30 for 30 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Then get back to me and talk about, your feelings. And, it's tough to watch, but again, this was the path they chose, right? There's going to be growing pains, but the part that bothers me and kind of what Mark Chimura was talking about there was, you've got all this inexperience and they don't know exactly what to do, right? And you got mistakes happening everywhere. The part that bothers me is from the general manager aspect, right? You're not willing to give up a precious draft pick to get a proven talent in here, right? Mm-hmm. God forbid we bundle together a 3rd and a 5th to bring in a veteran like all these other teams are doing. Everybody made fun of the Rams because they went all in that year. And it was just, and I kept hearing people say, well, they're not the best team. They won the Super Bowl. They're the best team. They survived the gauntlet all the way to the end, right? And all those moves that they made were well worth it. Getting OBJ, the way he played in the playoffs and started the Super Bowl, blows his knee out in the Super Bowl, all of that contributed to them getting there and winning the whole thing, right? Look at the 49ers right now. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to give Brock Purdy credit because it's, well, look at the super team around him. How'd they get that super team? Think about that. How did they find Deebo Samuel?
How did McCaffrey get there?
Yeah, they drafted him. He wasn't a first-round pick, right? Mm-hmm. Deebo wasn't. But, when you look at us, we're not willing to give up the draft picks for a Christian McCaffrey.
Right.
We were in talks for several different people, right? We were in talks for OBJ that year. Then we find out later that was free agency, by the way. We found out later that Brian Gutekunst offered him a minimum contract. So that's why he chose L.A. He was on the phone with Aaron and wanting to come to Green Bay. I'm not suggesting that we sign OBJ, we win a Super Bowl, but that's the culture we've created that we're not going to make those splashes. We'll go get the Rasuls and the Devondre Campbells, both great signings. Got to give Goody credit for that. But when you're not willing to give up these draft picks for proven commodities, and it's always just, well, we want our young guys to learn. We want our young guys to learn until it's the last year of their contract and you're not happy with them, then you let them go. It's like trading Tay away, right? Mm-hmm. And people say, well, he didn't want to be a Packer. That's BS. That is total BS. The reason he no longer wanted to be a Packer was because they lowballed him 2 years before and basically told him, you need to go prove it one more year. Okay, I'm done. I'm out.
Yeah.
Right. And by the way, is he performing pretty well this year? Imagine Devonte Adams on this offense. You think it's a better offense? I mean, it's tough, man.
Yeah.
And the other thing too, Emilio, is refusing to accept acknowledge the mistakes you make in the draft and holding on to these players and trying to force a square peg into a round hole. All those things. It's I'm going to rattle off a list here. Okay, Jair Alexander. Well, first of all, let's start with Kenny Clark. Kenny Clark is our highest paid player against the cap this year. Okay. $12.9 million against the cap this year. Things have been moved around. We know it averages out a lot more than that. But this year, 12.9 against the cap, highest paid player, 56.9 PFF grade. Okay. Jair Alexander. Okay. He's 10.7 against the cap this year. He's our third highest paid player, 63.5 PFF grade. Okay. Josiah Aguara, third round pick. Those precious third round picks that we're not willing to get rid of.
Mm-hmm.
He's a fullback essentially who's grading out of the 53.5. Okay. Third round pick. Elton Jenkins, second round pick, right? He's our fifth highest paid player. You just re-signed him. He's grading out at a 54.6. I give Elton the benefit of the doubt because of the injury and battling back from it, right? That's something that's definitely got to come into play. But again, that's 2023. That's a swing and a miss by Goot. There's no two ways about it. If you don't believe me, go watch the tape from the last game. If he's not right, sit him down. Like that. If anything, it's going to hurt his confidence. It's going to hurt players' confidence in him that play around him. Josh Myers, second round pick, 56.3. I know he's a good pass blocker. Okay, 56.3. Darnell Savage, $7.9 million against the cap. Might be 7.7. Some sites have it a little bit different. He was a first-round pick, 59.1. Has never lived up to that first-round pick. Those are all, and I say that because look at the draft picks there. First rounder, third rounder, second rounder, first rounder. God forbid we miss out on a Josh Myers to trade a second rounder with something bundled next year to land Christian freaking McCaffrey, right? And I don't even know what the trade compensation is. It's just that mindset is what's kind of eating me up, Emilio. What do you think? Do you agree, disagree? How do you see that, man? Because to me, it's like draft picks are okay. Yeah, they're an investment in the future. Let's hope they pan out. And you've got this guy that's been in the league that's a proven commodity. Insert any name, right? I mean, DJ Moore. Look at DJ Moore in Carolina, right? And I'm not suggesting we got draft capital to compete with that, but that's just another example of we made fun of him for it, right? He's not a number one receiver. He's playing like a number one receiver this year, right? So anyway,
you didn't even mention Amari Rodgers, but
I didn't even have it on the list. You're right.
Yeah,
these are just players on the roster right now.
Yeah, right. And think about it. I mean, Savage is $7.9 million, and he's now on IR. So add to that $80 million that's not on the field right now. That's crushing this team. So Goody doesn't have a bunch of money to play with, but also with his picks, what else can we do? Maybe we need to think outside the box. Maybe it's not just draft and develop. Maybe do 75% draft and develop. Plan on using X amount of picks for trying to get somebody. And it's like when we brought in Charles Woodson or someone like that. If you bring in a big name, it can change the dynamic of the team. But where are we going to bring them in on defense? Where it would be probably easier to bring someone in on offense, but are you going to drop a bunch of money and bring in a lineman to set the whole edge when you still got David Bakhtiari on the team? It's kind of right in the middle. So I do think Goot's a little to blame there, but I also think that he's expecting that his draft picks that he's put all this time into turn out, and when they don't, that's where he starts to get bound up and catches himself.
Yeah. Jake K in the chat says, then they offered Tay more money, like WTF. The problem with that sounds great on the surface, but if you walk through it in chronological order and how it happened, they didn't even offer Tay an extension, right? They were waiting, and they said, let's see it one more. His agent went to him with 1 year left on his contract and said, hey, let's, we want to re-sign here. We want to be in Green Bay. This is Tay's words, not mine. You can go check it out. He was on a podcast. It was either earlier this year or last year. And they said, no, let's wait and see. Let's see how this year goes. And Devonte said, so everything I've done here, being the top, at least a top 3 receiver, in most cases, the top receiver in the league, everything I've done here and everything I've invested into this team, and now you're telling me you need to see it one more year? He said, I'm done. I'm out. That's when he put the social media post up of The Last Dance. The media completely took it the wrong way and thought it was Aaron Rodgers leaving, and it was really Tay saying, I'm done with it. That's when negotiations were off the table for Devonte Adams. And some of you go, oh, well, it's a business. He shouldn't take it personal. No, dude. When someone performs at the highest level, you either want them or you don't.
Right.
And if you do, you don't play around like that.
Right.
And what Jake K is referring to is they offered him more money than the Raiders, right? After all that happened. And you know what? I respect Devonte Adams for saying, no, it ain't even about the money now. I'm going to go where I'm wanted. So
you got a good employee, you keep him, or you do things to keep him. It's not like you're going to get rid of your, one of your most producing guys and not have a backup plan. Maybe that's, he kind of went in there just hip firing and it didn't work out.
Right. Now, let's see here. There was another comment I want to hit on real quick right here. Jake K again says, was that because he didn't know if Rodgers would be here? Absolutely not. Do you remember the press conference when Aaron Rodgers came into training camp and he went scorched earth on the front office? Y'all remember that? I mean, he sat up there for like 30 minutes and just picked everybody apart. That's what he was talking about. He knew he was going to be in Green Bay and wanted to be in Green Bay. Him and Tay were talking behind the scenes. You think he refused to tell Tay, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be in Green Bay or not? Like, that's what pissed Rodgers off so bad, was because they lowballed Tay, and now Tay was done with it. Rodgers knew that. That's why they both put the social media post. This is our last year together. This is the last dance. Let's roll.
He's seen it before with Jordy too. So he's been through that again.
And again, some would argue that that's the right move with Jordy. I mean, based off how Jordy played with the Raiders, I can't disagree. That seemed to be the right move, right? But like Rodgers pointed out, you think Jordy wouldn't have had better stats with a quarterback where they're on the same page, those back shoulder throws, all the chemistry, all that? Absolutely, he would have had better numbers. Might not have been as good as the peak. And again, the thing about that too, they make it sound as if, well, Jordy wanted to break the bank. No. They offered Jordy, to the best of my knowledge, close to a minimum contract. They basically said, the only way we're bringing you back is if we get you for pennies on the dollars.
Right.
Jordy left.
It's like Odell.
And why does that apply today, Emilio? Rashawn freaking Gary. Right now, he's playing on that 5th-year option. I'm sure going into the season, it was, let's see how the knee's doing. Let's see how the knee's doing, right? Well, the knee is obviously fine. I think he's got the best pass rush rate or win percentage in the entire National Football League. If not, he's only second behind Myles Garrett. So with that being said, it's like, okay, he's obviously healthy. What are we waiting on? Imagine this. Imagine if Rashawn Gary pops up next week and says, I'm breaking off all negotiations. I don't want to be a Packer anymore. What would happen? That's essentially what happened to Devonte Adams, right? And it just blows my mind, man. It's a premier position.
It's you're playing with fire at that point. You're betting on yourself that you can get a better deal out of him by not giving him money sooner. And the way he's playing, it's not going to work out. If he plays like that for 2 more weeks, I don't know what they're doing, what they're dragging their feet on, unless they plan on doing it, right after the season's over. Yeah, for sure. Paul Robertson in the chat said Goody really dropped the ball on Myers. Could have had Creed Humphrey. Yeah, we've mentioned that on here, over and over. But GMs do miss. I don't want to come across like everybody misses. That's a tough one though, man. That's a tough one. It really is, because it's like one of, if not the best centers in football. I think last year he was the best center in football for, if not the entire season, a majority of the season, according to PFF. And you took the guy that you wanted at center 1 pick before him. I mean, I'm sorry. I can sit here and bury my head in the sand and go, oh no, it's not a big deal, but it's a miss. It is what it is, Let's see here. There was one more I was going to hit on, then we're going to get out of here, man. That I don't see it. Anyway, yeah, right here, Paul. That's a good point. It's a relationship business, absolutely. And there are some people
Emilio, there's some tough guys out there that like, oh, this is strictly business. And Brian Gutekunst is locked in and he's emotionless and this and that. Okay. Good luck getting players to buy into you caring about them and to care about this organization if you're just going to be cold like that, right? And I'm not saying it should be a love fest, right? You guys know how I feel about Matt LaFleur and showing too much emotion, right? But man, you can't go in and just treat them like they're a piece of meat, and
Right. Well, that's
it is what it is, man. Again, I don't think Goody is a bad GM. It just bothers me that we're not allowed to point out the faults and the things that we miss on. And the second you do, the defense attorneys come swooping in and make you sound like you're a bad fan and all that. But Zane Strong said he's got the most important comment of the night. He said, "I hope we're 65% better this week than we were last week."
65%.
65%. That's right. All right, let's get out of here. Emilio, you got any parting thoughts, man? It's a pleasant surprise that you jumped on here with me, dude.
Yeah, man, no worries. I'm still excited about the team. They're growing. They're getting, another 60 plays on offense, another 60 plays on defense this week, and it's got to happen against the divisional. Like I said yesterday, we need these. We lost to the AFC teams, but we need to turn it around, and we still have time. We really do. The season is still young, but again, if the fans that want to, write off the team, that's cool. But I mean, I'm here to just ride it out. That's the only way to let it go. We're fans first, and we love the team. So why put them down all the time when they're out there working too?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we don't want this to be a negative podcast. We want to be as positive as we can. But in a down year, if you see it, you got to say it. And when you rattle off those PFF grades, you watch the tape, and you see all this money tied up in players and they're underperforming, and it's like, okay. Were they bad picks? Is it bad coaching? None of us will never really know, but what we're going to try to do here is cover both sides, right? So that's what we're going to do. But with that being said, we're going to get out of here. Thank you guys so much for jumping in here, man. I really didn't expect anybody. We didn't promote it. Just kind of went live. And like I said, Emilio, thank you for jumping on, dude. This is a lot of fun. Boz, thank you so much for the donation, buddy. You're absolutely awesome. Josh Martin, thank you so much for the super chat. And everybody hanging out here in the chat with us, man. Like I said, I know we're not going to agree on everything. It would be a boring podcast if everybody agrees, right?
Right, yeah. I was going to say, it's all right. It's a good thing. We got to have different opinions and ideas. That's what makes it move. So, definitely. And I think that we're going to get a little bit better of a team this week. I really do.
Definitely. And that's how we learn, man. We learn from each other through disagreeing and looking at the stats, looking at the results, and just trying to get a little bit better. But we're going to get out of here. Like I said, thanks to everybody in the chat. For those of you listening on the pod, thank you for making us a part of your day. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world, and go Pack Go.
The power sweep. Actually, it's the lead play in our offense.
Double tackle, take the defensive end if he's over him. If he's not, you drive down the first man to his inside. Fullback, you tell him to take the first man outside the offensive tackle. No one goes. Go right by him and field inside. If the YN has the linebacker taken out, he cuts inside. If the YN has the linebacker in, he comes all the way around. So look at this play. What we're trying to get is a seal here and a seal here, and try to run this play in the alley.